Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Local Roots Partnerships and Success. I want to thank Amber, our partner, in putting this on, and all the panelists who you're going to hear from tonight. My name is Samantha Chapman. I'm the co-director of the Center for Biodiversity and Ecosystem Stewardship here at Villanova within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. CBEST is populated by 12 scientists, 12 faculty across the biology and the geography and the environment department, and you can find some of us here. We have these nice little wooden name tags on if you're interested. And really these scientists are studying biodiversity and ecosystems around the world, all over the globe, from hemisphere to hemisphere. But I think one of the most rewarding and unexpected parts of CBEST for me over the past 5 years has really arisen due to the encouragement of the person who's really allowed our center to exist, and that is the Dean of College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Dr. Adele Lindenmayer, there in the pink, which I'll introduce in a second. So Dr. Lindenmayer is an internationally recognized expert in modern Russian history, but she is also a pioneer of sustainability within our college. Dr. Lindenmayer encouraged us to really use CBEST funding to not just do our research around the globe, but to also really undertake outreach in our local community here near Villanova. And so we've been working with groups like Oakwell, the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, and even neighborhood HOAs like Inverary, where we've been learning about the amazing meadows that they've had there just in the past year after this event. So that's been really rewarding for us in CBEST, and I think we're really ready to dig into that more and more here at Villanova in our center, and we're grateful for Dr. Lindenmayer's guidance on doing that. She's encouraged and supported CBEST to do things like bring this group together tonight. So with that, I'm happy to introduce the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Dr. Adele Lindenmayer.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's really a delight to have this honor of welcoming you all. I don't often attend events that combine students, faculty, staff members, and our neighbors and community members. So I love looking out at this very variegated group of people. As Dr. Chapman said, sustainability and environmental education and research are top priorities in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I would say throughout Villanova, especially with our partner, the College of Engineering, which has some wonderful scholars and student activists who join with us in a variety of projects. As Dr. Chapman said, CBEST and our faculty here at Villanova work all around the world, but we can't neglect our immediate neighborhood. And we are blessed in this region with a number of active, very successful, I would say, environmental groups, a few of whom you will be hearing from tonight, the Radnor Conservancy, the Jenkins Arboretum, and Natural Lands. If you're not familiar with Natural Lands, it is one of my all-time favorite organizations in the world. Their preserves are extraordinary. They got me through COVID, just going out and seeing all this beautiful land and sky. So I think it's important for us as good neighbors here at Villanova to concentrate our attention on our own backyard as well as around the world. And I look forward to a really interesting panel. I hope you will stick around after the panel. There are refreshments. It's Villanova. There are always refreshments at an event at Villanova. And I will now introduce Amber Atwood Levy, who is a graduate of our master's program in history, and she is our moderator from the Radnor Conservancy. Welcome.
Hello. Yes, I am the executive director for Radnor Conservancy, and over 10 years ago, I really did not think that I would be introduced for anything by Dr. Lindenmeyer. So it's an amazing turn of events for me. Before I kick off the panel, I wanted to say a few quick thank yous. Dr. Chapman and Dr. Weeder and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, we couldn't ask for a better setting for this panel, and we are so grateful for your support to have us here tonight. To Marissa, I don't know, she's wandered in, watch her, yes, and the Director of Communications and Diane Brookie in the back, the Special Events Coordinator, Michael Hayden, who helped with IT. Literally everything in front of you is because of the work of this team. Tablecloths, chairs that you're sitting in, they're an amazing group of people to work with, and I am so appreciative for all of their help with all of the details for doing events like this. And panelists, thank you for your time, effort, and enthusiasm, because without you, we certainly don't have this event tonight. So thank you all very much. Tonight's event will proceed as follows. All of our presenters have prepared approximately 10-minute presentations on topics relating to our theme, Partnerships for Success. At the conclusion of our last speaker's presentation, we will have a Q&A session. We'll be holding all of the questions until the end, so each of our panelists has the opportunity to present in full, but please, if you have a question, note it on your phone, write it down on a piece of paper. We want to hear from you, and we are looking forward to the end of this and having this engagement with you. So please note those questions and save them for the end. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first panelist, which is Grant DeCosta, Director of Brandywine Conservancy, speaking on the Conservancy's Municipal Assistance Program.
Clicker works. So we're off to a good start. Thank you, Tech. So as Amber mentioned, my name is Grant DeCosta. I'm the director of the Brandywine Conservancy. It's an honor to be here speaking with you all this evening. Very much enjoy hearing what you have to say about my presentation and learning from my co-panelists. So I'm the director of the Brandywine Conservancy, but I'm part of a much larger organization, the Brandywine Conservancy and Museum of Art. So in addition to my conservation career, I'm really fortunate to have an opportunity to engage with the arts. And our Brandywine Museum of Art is located in Chadds Ford, right on Route 1 at the Brandywine Creek. So many of you may know us because of our Wyeth collection of artwork, or this time of year, some of our holiday decorations. On the Conservancy, we have a mission statement that says all the important things about the wonderful, exciting things that these folks are doing. So just knowing that, and at our core, we work throughout southeastern Pennsylvania and northern Delaware, portions of Berks County, eastern Lancaster County, including, in addition to the heart of Chester County and western Delaware County. We started out as a land trust, and through that, we conserve and protect lands throughout this region. We've protected over 70,000 acres of land, and we hold about 518 conservation easements as of yesterday. And with that, we partner with about 952 individual landowners of those parcels. In addition to that, right shortly after we were founded in 1967, our founders realized that we couldn't protect all the land, so we needed other tools in our toolbox, and they started our municipal assistance program. In that, we have 4 professional planners that help municipalities do everything from work on their 10-year comprehensive plan to implementing that plan through writing open space plans, to doing zoning and ordinances and writing regulations, doing economic analyses that most often are going to point to preservation as a good option for many of the lands in their municipality. This here, just looking at some of those, the comprehensive plan being the top planning effort typically in the work that we do. All of this is guided mostly by the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code and how we carry out our work. In addition to this, just through our mission as a nonprofit 501c3 to serve the public, we do a lot of this just for the greater good to amplify our efforts and support others. So things like writing a model buffer ordinance, we go ahead and publish that, and we put it out there for the greater good that any community that feels that it's right for them can elect to use these tools. In addition to that, we have various levels that we do those, all the way from that model ordinance to other tools that even some municipalities can act on their own. We have about 62 different municipal toolkits that we are regularly revising. We are going through a full rewrite of all of them right now. You see some of them up there. Things like the official map, what could be a powerful planning tool that essentially gives municipalities first right of refusal should a property come up for sale or certain actions are being taken on it. And that can lead to additional trails, preservation, things like that. Once again, allowed by the municipal planning code. Once we have this relationship with the landowners, we feel we're in a very fortunate position to lean deeper into our mission. One of the ways that we do this is helping farmers and landowners of all types steward their land to a better way. In this case, it's planting trees along a corridor that previously had access. This farm in particular is in Honeybrook Township, the uppermost headwaters of the Brandywine watershed. It's primarily Amish farmers, so what had been a more difficult community to reach, but through our ongoing work, we've established a great relationship where we can physically show the before and after when their farming practices reach that higher stewardship value. Lots of time spent with that community. We've helped them work through developing an open space program where back in 2008, the Amish came to the polls and voted to say, please tax us more to create an open space program. They've been wonderful partners. Looking at this is a slide I've shown in many of my presentations where I say guess the month. We don't have time for that. But I'll point out, as you look down at Honeybrook, all of the green. This is February. You can tell when you look at the forested areas, there are no leaves on the trees. The Amish have been great conservation partners. All that green you see is a winter cover crop where many decades or even generations of farming ago, those would be bare brown fields in the wintertime. So they've been great farmers. When we do this, it's not just looking at the stream corridor, though that's one of the best places. We want to address potential water contaminants anywhere that they can be. So this farm was a great one. We had done all those tree plantings, and the farmer commented, we're looking in the reverse direction. Look at all the water coming out of that pipe. Whose responsibility is that? You see the stormwater drop boxes. There are 6 of those that feed that as well, and this became kind of a moment for us where we looked at things and said, you know, attributing a quote back to Eisenhower, you know, sometimes when a problem can't be solved, you need to make it bigger to begin to see the outlines of a solution. So we said, can we work with our municipal assistance program, our land stewardship program, and align some of these things here as we work with them? Our municipal assistance program also has a branch that helps municipalities do a number of green stormwater infrastructure, most commonly associated with their requirements under urban stormwater in Pennsylvania, or MS4 if you know the acronym, Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Systems. So we had been doing this for a long time. As Honeybrook Township needed to submit their new MS4, we also had an opportunity to do a multi-municipal plan, looking at Honeybrook Borough, which is fully within Honeybrook Township. We worked with them, assessed all of the properties that were up for potential solutions to meet their requirements, and identified a number of them, both on some agricultural areas that were within their defined urbanized area, as well as some traditional things, such as this practice that we did alongside of an animal hospital that was within a more traditional urban core that embraced green stormwater infrastructure practices to put in this dry regenerative channel. And through another phase of this elsewhere on the property, we were even able to trial some practices with biochar, which is an exciting new practice that some are looking into. We had a demand for this after we completed that with other communities saying, can you help us? So looking at how can we take our green stormwater infrastructure program, do assessments for municipalities that look at non-traditional properties that their engineers may not be looking at, and saying, are there large landowners? Are there cultural and religious institutions that often have lots of land where we can incorporate some of these and build even deeper and broader practices? even doing it on municipal property. So this is East Marlboro Township. They've had a solar array, which is what you can see in the image to the left, over their parking for many years, but it just ran off. So working with them, we introduced a rain garden to capture and pre-treat that solar array runoff before it hits their stream. We put it in, as you can see, we have some water contained, infiltrating nicely. Time for pats on the back, right? No. The feedback is, why did you build us a puddle? So despite all of this, we may think that our partners are further along than they are, but they're not. So we build in educational resources. We had done this in another municipality and trying to make it accessible. Beauty or beast, was the question on the rain garden. So making sure we plan for all that. Moving forward, my organization was severely impacted by Hurricane Ida back in 2021 and due to the flooding that occurred. And we reached out and said, can we do something? There is going to be more flooding. We know what we're facing in terms of climate change. In terms of new residents coming to our area, Chester County, they are proposing potentially 50,000 people per decade. That's not so radically different from Delaware County or Montgomery County. So we wanted to also see if we could model solutions that could be used in other watersheds. So doing this, we worked with our municipal partners again, and one of the outputs of this study was a municipal assessment that looked at all of their MS4 that I already talked about. It looked at the countywide hazard mitigation plan, a powerful planning tool that can have municipalities partnering with county and accessing more funding resources that they may not otherwise have, as well as just engaging with their parks and rec road crew on what else can be done. And now we're moving forward with implementing their plans with them. And oh, by the way, land preservation is one of the key findings of the flood study that can help. Through all of this, as I mentioned with the puddle we built at East Marlboro, there's still a lot to go. This is a study that was actually done that had to do with the implementation of new practices by farmers. I think it came out of Iowa. They've since studied this on other technologies, whether it's smartphones, electric vehicles. This holds true. So we need to get in with our innovators, but we really see change once we start hitting that early majority. So partnerships will help get us there. So 10 minutes, thank you.
Thank you, Grant. You can tell we had a conversation about timing beforehand, so we're all trying to be very focused out of respect of your time, too. Up next, we have Dr. Amanda Hess, Research Assistant Professor with the Villanova Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, presenting on the Villanova Center for Resilient Water Systems.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda Hess and I work here. And so we're going to talk about the Villanova Urban Stormwater Partnership, which is a partnership. But to talk about that, we have to talk about the Villanova Center for Resilient Water Systems, or we call it VCRUS because we're really cool. And what we look like are these people. We're a mix of faculty, staff, postdoctoral researchers. And we have our grad students who are the driving force of all the research. And we have a mix of educational backgrounds. So stormwater is kind of born out of civil and environmental engineering, and then specifically water resources engineering out of that umbrella, and then stormwater is kind of like this little thing on the bottom at the end of that. But it is a interdisciplinary problem. Water goes through soil. It has a water quality that we want to, so we have a lot of people that have different specialties in those areas, as well as our students, sometimes come from biology backgrounds and whatnot, but we are housed in civil engineering. So the partnership, as it is focused more on stormwater specifically. So those stormwater control measures that you were talking about, that's what we do. And we want to foster a way to get that information of the sustainable stormwater research that we're developing to our partners, which would be some private, some public. We have a lot of engineering firms. Those are highlighted right there. We have some manufacturers as well, and then our public sector is there as well. Philadelphia Water is one of them, and then we have the Department of Environmental Protection. I work with them a lot. They're not officially a partner because they give us the money, right? So we don't make them pay to be a partner. But a lot of my time and thoughts and energy go into the state stormwater manual that we are developing at Villanova with some colleagues in the field as well. So, hopefully that'll come out in the next couple of years. We have a draft manual, but that is the guidance that we give engineers to make the stormwater systems so that way they are doing the things that we want them to do in terms of water quality and whatnot. So our partnership, if you're a part of it, not that I'm trying to sell you on it or anything, but if you were, what you would do is you'd pay a fee, right? And then we have some meetings that we try to tell them what we're up to in terms of research, and then get feedback from what are the issues that you're facing, and like where are the gaps, what do you need to know to be able to do these things better. And that directs the research that we want to do, and we disseminate those findings. We do peer-reviewed journal articles. We do a lot of presentations at different conferences, and then a lot of that money goes to hosting this biannual VUSP Stormwater Symposium. This happens here. Actually, there's a picture. An old grad student who now works for PWD is presenting, and it's a really good networking event as well to kind of get into the local community. So this is really focused on this area of Philly and surrounding firms that really want to know what's going on locally and how can we solve these issues. So us at Villanova perform the research, and we do that using field, lab, and computer modeling. If you have time to walk around the campus or have seen it before, there's a lot of sites on campus that we research, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. Some are, most of them are on the ground, some of them are on the roofs, and some of them are vegetated. Some of you don't even know you see them, right, because they're permeable pavements. The pavers and the quads, if you've walked through it, students, that's actually in between the bricks, water can get through, as well as the roof leaders are tied into a big basin underneath that does some stormwater stuff. And then we've ventured off campus. So our campus has a certain signature, right? So it's certain pollutants come in, a lot of salts, unfortunately, and we want to know what's happening in ultra-urban settings as well as like more suburban, rural-y settings for these systems. So we've traveled off campus with some grants. And here's just kind of like a timeline of the sites that we've had on campus, and they've changed over time. They've kind of looked differently. We've been monitoring one bioinfiltration, so that means it goes into the ground, it infiltrates into the ground. Traffic Island, it's on West Campus between the, sorry, you can probably hear me better now. It's between the soccer fields and the volleyball courts, and it has a tree in it. You probably wouldn't even notice it, but that is one of our sites that has been monitored for a very long time. We actually gave it a 21st birthday party recently. Moving on, we have some newer stuff outside of this realm, so 2018 kind of marks our off-campus setting, and then the Stormwater Commons actually on campus has a bunch of stormwater features, some that you can see, some that are underground that you can't see. And we do a lot of stuff in our labs, so we take things from these sites, and we might take water samples, we might take soil samples. I'm more of a geotechnical person, so I like the soil samples. And we take them back to our labs, and we measure what's going on there. We have a lot of good staff who build some fancy things, because water can be hard to measure, and you have to kind of force it to be measured sometimes. So we have a watershed instrumentation lab where a lot of things get dirty and messy, and a lot of sensors involved in there. The stormwater quality lab, Alina's fantastic. She tests all the chemistry that I don't understand in the water and figures out how good these systems are performing in terms of different nutrients and metals and things of concern that we should be concerned of in our water. I like to work with dirt, or soil as we call it, because dirt's the bad word for soil. And we also have a really cool sediment and hydraulics laboratory. I got this picture before it was installed with the flume. It's almost hard to take a picture of it because it's so big. But if we have a flume, we can kind of measure things in the that aren't in the field in the lab. And I'm going to go through an example of kind of like how we apply our research to the real world. So this ultra-urban site in Philadelphia, we were monitoring it, we realized it wasn't getting as much water as we thought it should. And we looked up, this is actually I-95, that sound wall, if you see it in that picture. It's capturing water from up there. And we noticed that this grate has a lot of flow going and bypassing in that gap between the wall and the grate itself. And we actually measured Jerry's boot and was like, that's 4.5 inches, so we know that. And a little bit of water is getting in, and it's gonna depend on the flow. So one of my grad students built this thing, put it in the lab. We put a bunch of different flows on it. We even put sediment in it because it's not just water, it's a bunch of stuff. And sometimes it's like, you know, there's a paper bag over it, so that's not gonna work, right? But we noticed that our capture, the stuff that's actually getting captured in that grate, is a lot less than we were planning. We're kind of assuming that all of it gets in, but it's not all getting there. So first of all, how can we know what's getting there, right? How can we use that in engineering and design? And then maybe we can use this in a model, simulate things we can't do in real life, and calibrate it to it, right? We know what's happening in real life, we know what's happening in the model. We have a good model, we can extrapolate what's happening in different scenarios, and then in the real life, can we retrofit something, right? Not rocket science, you put a block there, water gonna get in better, right? So that's what we did, but we did try to figure out, like, you know, where should this go? What shape should it be for the capture efficiency? The line is up by 100%, that's what we want. We want all the water going there compared to the line that is not doing 100%. And for future reference, we're actually, they're building the new systems with a different grate inlet that will actually capture the water on the side, right? So we have different options available to us. Sometimes it just becomes the default to use a certain thing. And yeah, so that's kind of an example of how that research is getting applied. And I work a lot with this project as well as the manual, so I can answer questions about that later. So that's all I got. Oh, I do a lot of infiltration tests, so a lot of dirt stuff.
Thanks, Amanda. Up next, we have Kyle Rose, Director of Land Protection Program at Natural Lands, presenting on their administration of PECO's Green Region Open Space Program.
Thanks, Amber. You know, and you checked with our titles beforehand, and it's ironic that I'm talking today about the PECO program because I started that a month and a half ago as the administrator of this program, and it's technically another title, but I didn't even think about it because I am so new to thinking like that. My wife makes fun of me that I'm so bad at remembering names, but I'm really stubborn about always trying to use them. So I just say, thank you, Dr. Lindemeyer. I'm hoping I'm right on that one. First time I ever heard the name. For your kind words about Natural Lands. I'm truly proud to be a part of this organization. I'm here to talk about the PECO program. And the PECO Green Region Open Spaces program started in 2005. Natural Lands has been administering that program since its inception. We had our 20th anniversary, our 20th birthday, if you will, this last year. We're just about to close on our 21st round of applications with the program. It's a really big deal. We're really proud to be a part of it. You know, PECO shares our passion for preserving and providing access to our region's open spaces, and they show it through this program, and we're really a natural fit to work with them on this. Our Natural Lands mission is, in short, land for life, nature for all. The PECO Green Region program is perfectly aligned with this. Just to quickly say, how many people here are have been to Natural Lands property? Okay, so I don't need to introduce us too much. That's nice to know. The three pillars or three big, objectives that we use to reach our mission are save open space, care for nature, and connect people with the outdoors. And I truly couldn't believe more in those three pillars. In order to save open space, we have saved since our founding in the early 50s 136,000 acres of land. That's about the size of Delaware County. We have over 490 conservation easements, totaling over 28,000 acres of land. We have helped over 150 municipalities meet their open space or work towards their open space goals. In Care for Nature, we have over 40 preserves in 2 states and 13 counties, totaling over 23,600 acres. To connect people with the outdoors, all of our preserves are free. That's really an amazing thing that we have all this land here and it's all totally free. I grew up in Westchester. It was here. I didn't really know about it at the time. I wish I did. It's really a really, truly special thing. We have over 100 events annually and over 300,000 visitors. There are over 350 volunteer events annually as well that you can participate in if you're not doing so already. And we've helped over 60 communities plan, implement, install, or improve parks across the region. And that's really where it comes down to meeting up with PICO. You can see their service region on the left, even going into 3 townships in York County in the west, and how well that overlaps with our region that we call our core region. So the PICO Green Region Open Space Program, who is eligible? Any municipality within that region, borough or township, nonprofits within the county of Philadelphia, as long as they can be religious nonprofits, they have to be non-denominational, and regional recreational authorities are also eligible to apply to this program. Its purpose is to support local ongoing efforts to preserve, protect, and improve public spaces and increase our collective tree cover. It's really evolved a lot over time. I'm going to show a little bit about the different uses and the different types of projects that have happened, and every few years a new kind of category can get added to that. It provides up to $10,000 and it requires a dollar-for-dollar match up to that $10,000. So we work together, we're the administrator of this program, or I do that, I serve that role. I work closely with PICO to understand their goals for the program, what types of projects they'd like to see come across their desk. I work with our reviewers who volunteer to be part of that. Thank you to Brandywine Conservancy as well. I'll send the reviewers a list of applications to review. They score it. This is all volunteer that they're doing this. They score it. I'll compile the scores. I send that to PICO, and they make the ultimate decision. Generally, I don't think that we ask our reviewers to consider equity, because that's a really big thing to be able to consider, but PICO does. PICO's thinking about, has this township gotten a grant before? Are they a first-time applicant? Are they from an underserved community? That's on their side that they do it, and we rely on our reviewers to know the place, to know the science, to know what's needed to be able to judge whether a project is viable or not. Thank you. So obviously this really aligns very well with our mission as well. It synergizes as well with me and my other role. And so I'm obviously talking about this from my perspective too, right, as the new Land Protection Director at Natural Lands. I'm starting in kind of a new role. Being able in this PICO program has been I jumped at the opportunity to do this because it's an opportunity to meet people across the whole region that maybe someday are interested in land protection as well. I also really feel motivated by being able to hear about all the different people interested in doing good things for their communities and connecting people to parks, open spaces, whatever it is. It's a good way to be fed on a daily basis about the good things people are doing. So a little bit of our history this is only through 2024, the most recent round that I have full data on. Since its inception, we've had over 900 applications from eligible applicants, over 409 awards, 204 unique awardees, over 340 acres acquired, over 51 miles of trails installed, and over 9,600 trees planted. And that represents over $3 million in funding. And one of the things that I'll talk about later is how this really is a small piece of the funding puzzle for a lot of these projects. And that shows how, $10,000 might not sound like a lot when you're talking about a stormwater project or a large infrastructure project, but $10,000 can go a long way to helping smaller community groups do meaningful things for them in their communities. I present both the submissions and the awarded projects, but the thing that I think is really amazing is without, I think, any intention, the proportions between submissions and awardees is nearly identical across the different categories. And so basically this tells me is a good project can get funded regardless of which of these categories it falls in. There's really not a lot of bias per se for a given category. If there's a good project that fits one of our categories that we're interested in, it's a good thing to propose to the program because it has a good chance of being funded. I'll give a couple of examples across the gamut. Neighborhood Gardens Trust is a nonprofit in Philadelphia. They've actually been awardees 4 times through the program. They recently finished an acquisition of the 6th of 6 former Five Loaves, 2 Fish community gardens in Philadelphia. And so they acquire these properties, they rehabilitate these community gardens to be available to community members to do agriculture on these parcels. I wanted to read a quick quote from their final report. This project has allowed for access to healthy food, nutrition, information, and has created opportunities for additional partnerships and programming. Gardeners continue to grow fresh, organic produce and to use their time at the garden to connect with nature and one another. I mean, that's really the theme of what I'm talking about on natural lands level, on PICO's level, and obviously with the people who apply to this program. And this only represented 20% of the total cost of that project. And for me, that's not a sign of the program, not pulling its weight. It's a sign of how it's a part of the program. It's, if you're incentivizing other people to do these good projects and you're part of the funding puzzle, that's a really meaningful thing. Second example in Bucks County, this was to install signs. They installed a bunch of different signs throughout this Lindy Community Center garden. 27% of the total funding, and it led to partnerships with Penn State Master Gardeners. Their local EAC uses it for environmental education. In New Garden Township in southern Chester County, they installed 1.5 miles of trail. The program was able to help fund site prep, grubbing, fence install, wayfinding station, and a parking lot. It represented 19% of the total project's funding, and it was associated with 400 trees being planted. And really meaningful, and I'll talk about this with this last example, is that volunteers are a big part of these projects. Thank you. So in this one with Delaware River City Corps in Philadelphia County, in the 2021 round, 53 volunteers helped plant 125 trees and 50 shrubs in 20 different species, so a high diversity planting. It was 42% of the project's funding, but this is also part of a multi-year program that they were implementing. They had gotten multiple grants from PICO. They were doing this year after year. It's part of a long-term project that has led to over 1,500 trees being planted on 10 acres managed for invasive species, to avoid invasive species. It's also provided a location for job training in urban forestry, and it's exciting to support because it leads to these long-running programs that benefit communities and ecosystems. And I kind of just wanted to end on this, and I realized it almost felt like word salad when I put these 2 phrases down on this slide, but it's things that I really do believe strongly about, and why I'm excited to be part of this program is because, positive connections, trends, and so much of what we are working towards depends on long-term focus and multiplying the positive impact across scales. And that might sound complicated, but really, I believe strongly that if we don't have a shared language of to talk about ecosystems, to talk about our relationship with ecosystems, and to talk about where we're trying to go, we're kind of just a few motivated people working really, really, really hard instead of actually seeing us get to that graph that maybe that Grant mentioned earlier about getting through that early adopters. So being able to, it's so cliche to say the small steps add up, but it really is true. And I've been really enjoying hearing everything that's going on with our other presenters here, and believe really strongly that this is part of the puzzle. So thank you very much.
And for our last presenter tonight, we have Tom Smarr, Executive Director from Jenkins Arboretum and Gardens, presenting on their stormwater management plan and implemented projects at the Arboretum.
Oh boy. So thank you again for this opportunity to come and speak with everybody and to be able to present here. And I'm a little different than my colleagues. They're all amazing institutions, but they're dealing with very big sites and multiple sites. We're one site. So I think this is sort of a, we own about 40 some acres, I think 47 acres when we finally total it up. And we're looking at a very unique site. So just really quick, everybody knows us for azaleas. Yay, great azalea collection. We are the national accredited azalea and mountain laurels. What is mountain laurels? Our national flower, or not national, our state flower. So we have this great botanical collection. Think of it as a living museum, just like the standard things that are sitting in a museum that are dead. We have living things that are museum quality. And we're founded because of two women's love of nature. They love nature, and these two properties, their two properties, were merged together to create this space for the public after their passing. So I think this is really amazing legacy, and so we really take it seriously that we protect and take care of the land, not just the collections, but the land as well, and that's a really big part of what we are. How many of you have been to Jenkins? Yeah, a fair amount of you have been there. There's a lot of good hands, so I don't have to give too much background. We have a lot of sinuous trails, as it's seen on this map. That's because we're a hillside garden. Love the hillside garden because we get great views. It's also challenging because water runs downhill, and so we see a lot of water issues in our project. I always like to liken that our garden is like the chutes and ladders game, right? It's like all these sinuous sort of trails and everything. And as we started thinking about it, we went into a master plan process. We hadn't gone into a master plan process for over 45 years. So since the inception of the organization back in the early 70s, we hadn't really thought about master planning. And so we went back and really did some research. And our slope analysis, so the dark orange is steep slope. So a lot of water is moving around on that property, downhill, down towards the right side of the screen there. So, and then you have, during the master plan process, we had these lovely storms hit us. This is a derecho in 2020. It just felt like a gut punch with so many things happening in 2020. And then all of a sudden, we lost 60 trees in one day. This is the, if you've been to Jenkins, this is the cottonwood that still sits in the pond. We decided to leave the log there so the wildlife could enjoy it. But that's what it looked like. You see my poor gardener there looking very downtrodden with this tree, discovering this tree. And we've had several. I think Ida was brought up. We've seen several storm events that have created really damage. Fortunately, we're on sort of a top of a hill, but we have a stream at the bottom of our hill. And that's really what we're going to be sort of focusing on today, is this sort of approach of how water can have such a destructive, it's also a great resource. So how do we manage that resource so it can be a great thing? So our little stream is, we affectionately call it Browning Brook. It's not an official name yet. We're working on that with USGS, but this is a USGS. So we're part of a larger stream system that's Trout Creek. So this is a little stream that runs in here. You can see it over there. And Jenkins Arboretum sits right at the crossroads of a couple of major roads. We have a state road, Devon State Road, which is on the right here, Waterloo Spur Road, it says here, but that's not what it is. It's Devon State Road. But it's a really interesting little spot that with a stream running along it, and that's going to become important. Since I've been there in the last 6.5 years, we've done a lot of work, master plan, strategic plan, mission, really thinking about all the things that we are and what we're doing. And that's really where we said, hey, great to have a collection, but what are we also? How are we relevant not only to our public, but also how are we taking care of this property so it's really doing some amazing things? And part of our master plan process was doing a stormwater plan. This really came in late in the process, but we said we're seeing destructive processes. We're physically losing land to Gateway Shopping Center, and Gateway Shopping Center doesn't want that land sitting. Trader Joe's does not want to be flooded. So that was something that we really saw. It's not just protecting our land, it's protecting the downstream land. We're trying to do something as part of the solution in the bigger area. And we got involved with our politicians and our local government. We handed that stormwater plan off as soon as it was done. We handed it to our township, and they used that to go get money from the state and from some federal programs. Mostly state and county level programs were a really big part of trying to get that involved. And that was really important, was getting involved with our different governmental structure as well as our other nonprofit partners was a big part of it. We came up with sort of almost immediately. We thought this would take like 5 to 6 to 10 years for this plan to really roll out. But it came together so quickly, these 3 projects almost instantaneously. The first 2, the Gregory Lane infiltration and the Browning Hillside projects, came together so quickly by the township. They just sort of ran with their stormwater plan. The first one is their project. It's on their land, which is basically their roads. It's a cul-de-sac. Any of you know the parking lot right below to different township library, there is a beautiful new parking lot there that they tore up and did construction on. That is an infiltration parking lot, because below them, the neighborhood was being flooded all the time. They're doing the identical thing in this cul-de-sac, which will help prevent water going into people's garages and driveways, but also it'll help water as it comes on our property going down to the Browning Brook stream at the bottom of the hill here, that then goes all the way down to Trader Joe's. So it's all part of starting to work on the point sources that are around our hill and what are going on there. And then the third project there, the Devon State Road project, out of the blue, we had an engineering firm that called us and said, we are looking for a project, and your project happened to stumble up. It was looking for managing a stream and re-engineering it along a state road, Devon State Road, Browning Brook. And we quickly went into a whole process. They started construction this past winter. They rebuilt the bedrock under the stream because it was being eroded, and they also leveled out the sides of the stream so our water can rise up without causing a lot of damage. It's a little bit of a research and development and trial, but so they have several years of evaluation after this, but we were the land project on this. So none of this money is going through our little nonprofit and trying to manage all these hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is really helpful because I have one bookkeeper who helps me. And so being able to have somebody, partners who are managing this is really wonderful. And then we do a lot of planting. We're doing live stake planting along this. This is the ground cover that was done after the initial planting. So this is probably spring to early summer. And then we went out and we fundraised with great donors. Some of you are in here tonight that helped us raise money so we could do a really beautiful planting along Devon State Road. One that's stable, deer resistant, and will really be beautiful as people drive through that space. And then you can't quite see it. I just took this picture yesterday, but there are a whole bunch of little plants down here. You can sort of see flags and things here. Here you can see some of the new trees, a lot of perennials in there, and we used volunteers to do this. And this was a great way to engage our community to be part of this project. And we have other projects. We always are trying to engage corporate groups, garden clubs are always helping us on this. And so this has been a really great way of doing this. I love this picture because they're really excited. They get a day out of the office and they get to help plant plants in the garden that are going to help. And I love when they come back because we can show them the old projects and then bring them into the new. So just a little bit wrap up. Some of you already know this, some of you don't. Jenkins is getting ready to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And one of the things we really wanted to make sure was how relevant we were, how we were telling these stories. And all these projects, we want to do things like this, speak about it, but also do interpretation on the site. How many times do you hear about a stormwater project and you can't go visit it, or you don't even know it's existing? So that's one of the modes that we want to do. We want to be able to put interpretive signage out there. We have a lot of programs. We're constantly engaging young children, adults. We're doing all kinds of things to try to educate about this, and we have the infrastructure to be able to do this and to be able to happen it. And so it's youth programs, it's adult programs, some of it's feel good. Did you know forest bathing is a big deal nowadays? That's a really big deal. So we're doing a forest bathing, I think, here in a few weeks, if it hasn't already passed. Yoga, Tai Chi, but a lot of tours. And those of you who are students in the room, I put this slide in for you. We have we have several student programs, but these are two. We do internships that are summer internships. We also have a 2-year apprenticeship where you're working with plants. And we have a significant native plant collection as well. And it's really, it's a really great great way to get hands-on. And if you're looking for, this is my little bit of promotion slide, you can go to our table and check out more about this. We are doing our Luminary event. How often do you get to walk in the woods at night? And this is an experience that we really love to advocate and have a chance for people to enjoy. And we have a garden shop for Christmas shopping, just saying, gift shopping. Anyways, please come and check us out. And then just 2 more slides. These are a little bit different. We have passports over there. All 3 of the organizations that are here are in this passport. This is the America's Garden Capital organization that we're all part of. There are over 38 institutions in this organization. You can go to the website. There's a QR code over there if you don't want to take a passport. Or you can check out all these gardens, and they're all doing really interesting environmental work and all sorts of cool stuff. And then on a state level, all 3 of us, again, are all part of this PA Gardens. This is where we're advocating in Harrisburg. Legislators and government officials do not know about this work that we're doing. And so we're, as public gardens, trying to go in, and there's other conservation land management organizations as well, but as public gardens, we're a front face for so many people as their first interaction about the environment. So we're going to Harrisburg to advocate. We were physically shut down during the pandemic, and this is what helped found us. We weren't allowed to open. Country clubs were allowed to open, but we were not. And this was so important that we can be able to open, not only be places of health and wellness, but also as places to demonstrate and educate people about how the power of plants and the power of great engineering work that's being done in this state. And that's one of the things that we really believe in. So I encourage you to check that out as well as we talk about it. So thank you so much, and look forward to the questions.
Hello? Ha, all right. So that concludes our panel presentations. I think I have a microphone wrangler somewhere for this microphone up here. And if not, maybe somebody in a Radnor Conservancy sweatshirt could help us out with passing out microphones. But we wanted to go ahead and open it up to the Q&A portion of this discussion. And I can go ahead and get us started. So before we have a mass exodus of students who are going off to study and do the things that they have to do, one of the things that we didn't get to touch on that I wanted to be sure that we included was the career paths question. Do people want to do a quick share on does anybody want to give a quick share on how they ended up in the position that they are, what their backgrounds are?
Me? Hey. Yeah, so I didn't know if I would get into this when I first thought of jobs. I just kind of was like, oh, mom's doing this, dad's doing this. But I liked math and science. I was good at that. And I got into engineering in my undergrad and just continued on through master's and PhD and learned a lot. And it also feels good to do something that's not always, that has a benefit, but mostly I just like the people I work with, and that's kind of how it went down. But yeah, do you want to answer your career path?
For myself, I actually started out post my undergrad working in environmental policy in Washington, D.C., and felt I needed to buy back some good karma in the world, and went to other places as I tried to figure out what was best for me. Lo and behold, I fell in love with a woman from Chester County, and we moved back to the area, and seeing what's written into the DNA of people in southeastern Pennsylvania and northern Delaware of the love for the land and conservation and stewarding correctly, it's just something I wanted to be a part of. And I actually restarted my career, having been out of conservation for a number of years at that point, at an entry level working for the county government, and got to work with all of the land trusts in the area, including natural lands, and really get a feel for it. And while I knew that government wasn't going to be my long term, I knew I wanted to be involved with the land trust, and I was fortunate that a position came up at the Conservancy, and been there in successive leadership roles now. So.
Yeah, I was an English major because my worst subject was writing. And so I thought, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to go to college for, is to improve your worst subject. And and then I worked in a cannery in Alaska and realized people up there, when I was hitchhiking around, there was all these foresters. I thought, oh, foresters get to live in places I'd like to live in. So I found a way to get my master's at Michigan Tech while I was doing the Peace Corps. So I went to Honduras, studied rice production and tree propagation. And so when I got out of that, I really wanted to keep working with succession of ecosystems and restoring ecosystems. And I found a PhD program at Purdue where they were willing to have me do research in Hawaii. So I did that. And as I was finishing at Purdue, and I never wanted to be a professor, I had a friend call me up and say, would you like to be one? And I thought, well, I may as well try it, since I'm not going to do the postdoc this way. So I did the tenure track thing for 3 years. You know, really, really toxic place. I know this is recorded, but it was a hard place. It was a hard place. And my wife was working in Santa Fe, but traveling 130 miles round trip every day, and I disliked my job. And so I decided to stop teaching forest management and start trying to do it. So I moved to the state and worked for a state agency running a multidisciplinary restoration program across 9 million acres with a small team, 5 people, like $2 million a year just to do whatever we wanted, but it was a drop in the bucket, right? But it was the best job I could have ever asked for. But we had a 4-year-old and no family, and we moved back here. I worked somewhere for 11 months and decided I missed thinking regionally and landscape level. And so when the natural lands job came up, I decided, yeah, let's just do a career shift and leave research and stewardship and find out how to do real estate for the purposes that I really truly care about. So I always just say yes to things and try to be curious. So that's how I got where I am.
You're always what? Oh, is this not working? Is it? Okay, it just didn't sound like it from this end. You're almost as wild as I am. I've had a lot of careers too, but it's been a fun ride as well. So I started with I don't know how many students are in here, but I started out not knowing what I wanted to do, but I love the outdoors. I ran around. I grew up in northern Pennsylvania as a teenager in Potter County, Pennsylvania, which is real hick land, and I just loved the woods. Me and the dog would run around. I dug up native plants and planted my own little native plant garden. And I decided to go to school for environmental studies, for basic science. I always said I took all the 101 and 102 of every sciences. But it was a great background. And then I decided wildly to apply for an internship at a big garden because I just wanted to learn how to grow plants and thought I'd maybe someday have my own garden. And that turned out to be Longwood Gardens. And I didn't realize it was going to open the door for a whole career. And that's why I put the slide up there, internships. I've done 2 of them, Longwood Gardens, the Holden Arboretum in Ohio, which does also great land conservation work. And then I went to grad school. I went to Seattle. I left the state. And then I started moving around. But I always had like one philosophy. Maybe it's gotten me in trouble. Maybe it's been good. I don't know. I always said I can do anything for 1 year. And that was always my sort of motto, that I would find interesting jobs. I've worked in conservation organizations. I've worked for public gardens. But most of my career has been working actually in public parks, new parks that I never would have said I would have worked in these places. And I feel very lucky I've worked in some of the internationally recognized sort of spaces, and it's allowed me to understand a real complexity of green spaces as a result. And that's been, so I think whenever one's pursuing careers or getting involved in things, I think that's one of the things I really take from that, is how do you get into place? You've just sort of described the story. It's like, how do you guys get in the places you want to be? Sometimes it's a journey. It's not about starting, I'm going to get it right here. It's about setting up your journey and going from there.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? In the back, yeah. Please. A microphone would actually be better, just so that we have the audio. It's right behind you, Betsy. It will when you. It's got a slide. Thank you.
Is this working? Oh, jeez. So one question I had that kind of relates to like all of the organizations you guys are with. You mentioned a lot of getting municipalities involved when it comes to either like MS4s or open spaces. What is the process that you guys go through to get these municipalities on board, especially when there's certain ones that might not have conservation as their primary focus?
Yeah, I think for the Conservancy, one of our best assets has been our relationships and stewarding those relationships over time with municipalities, being available to provide technical assistance on a variety of things that are important to them. Most of them that then end up having a longer term relationship with us know that any of the planning work we do, whether it's writing a new regulation or ordinance, we will come at it with a conservation focus. We commit to being involved long term. So we have a lot of operational funding we put towards things that do not cover our bills. You know, as a nonprofit, we're not supposed to make money, but in our municipal assistance planning portion of our work, we compete with for-profit planners. So that's an additional challenge for us. But the other element that helps us is, in addition to getting grants for ourselves, we're also really good at helping municipalities get grants from various funding sources. So once again, there's a partnership element there. Like you had mentioned with DEP, they may not, be a formal partner, but they're a funder, so they're involved as well. So with that comes additional relationship management and all of that. But Kyle mentioned Brandywine Conservancy a number of times. We work with each other really well. We help each other with some of our municipal clients. There are times where Brandywine may be working on an easement project with a landowner or municipality, but Natural Lands has a better relationship with both, or they may have the easement next door. So we will give them that project because we are aligned in our mission that we want to see the best outcome for the land and the landowner's objective.
One question I had, because it was touched on in different ways, and I think almost all of the presentations, was about connecting with hard-to-reach communities and building trust in communities. So I think a flip side to that question about building relationship with municipalities is how are nonprofits poised to, and universities poised to connect with those communities in special ways? What would you say?
We've really tried to be transparent about it. We're a nonprofit with a communication plan, right? So we have our magazine. We use our various channels to try to just talk about these projects as much as possible, and try to work with our partners in having that communication. So that, to me, it's about how do you create transparency and build a communication plan that goes with it, with our township, less with the county. I think we're really looking at the local community, township and local community. So we try to do that. Are we always perfect at it? No, but we try to be visible and see what we're doing and trying to improve the landscape.
Now? Okay. Yeah, for us, I think a lot of the times the community aspect is built in a lot of different ways, especially for grants. We try to get to younger members of society and start there and introduce them to concepts of stormwater. Education really is, I guess, any ways we can kind of spread that kind of thought process or age appropriately, right? And we have a couple sites in Philly, and people stop by and ask us what we're doing, and we can say some things. We're not allowed to say all the things about the project because then there's complications there, but we can talk about what we're doing and like what infiltration is and what this thing is supposed to be doing. So mostly education for us.
I could just add, we often say that we are committed to a non-confrontational or non-aggressive way of doing land conservation. You know, we work with willing landowners, all that kind of thing, and you know, land conservation and open space is in this world surprisingly, you know, or gratifyingly bipartisan. So it's something that everybody can feel the value of, and so I think when you're selling a product that people really truly value, and if you just, you know, you don't have to be pushy with it to get people to be interested in open space. You know, there's a big disparity across our counties about how many local municipalities have passed referenda to be able to support open space, and that's true. But you know, any sort of fad or trend progresses from somewhere and goes somewhere else over time. But the thing is that it's contagious, right? And so over time, you get more and more of these things passed, and people see the value of what it does for their communities. Chester County or Montgomery County might undertake a return on environment study that really puts a quantifiable kind of dollar value on the environmental services connected to open space. And you know, not everybody speaks that language or is convinced by numbers, but some people are. And so over time, it kind of snowballs a little bit, and you don't have to get into the game of trying to force people to see things your way.
So I work with lots of young people right now that I think are somewhat disillusioned with entering the space that you all work in. You know, here at the university, obviously federal funding's been challenging recently for these kinds of projects. Can you talk a little bit, kind of to Kyle's point, about like trends recently, working at the local level, people's interest in conservation and biodiversity and things like that?
The question, in case people didn't hear it, was addressing kind of a disillusionment amongst our rising professionals in the fields that we work in, and what our professionals are seeing in the field these days, to paraphrase.
Yeah, for the Conservancy with our various programs, you know, I mentioned our land conservation work where we're preserving land, and we have to then, because of that perpetual deed restriction, go out and steward that easement. We have our municipal assistance program, our community services, where we're doing many of the GSI practices, so that's a more of a implementation arm of our work, and then ultimately our preserve staff. So we have a lot of ways in which we can offer opportunities for a conservation career. Like others said, you know, internships are important, and we're very fortunate at the Conservancy that we've had a lot of donors that saw the long-term vision. So we have endowed internships, so they are paid positions, so that is not a barrier to entry into the field, and we're really excited to be able to offer that. In addition, we can also find ways to integrate, I think, some non-traditional careers into our work. When I was doing the alternative to a standard mission statement slide, I showed historic preservation. And that's another way that we can have an important engagement with our work, especially when we find some of the preservationists that realize that preserving a site isn't as great as if you can preserve its context, so the landscape in which it existed. So, and bringing in a historic preservationist and seeing a light bulb go off in them that they can have a career that's richer than they thought because they can work in conservation. Recently, I will say that, you know, with our open positions, we've seen a little bit of a change in the employment market, where we're seeing a lot more come to our careers versus a number of years ago, post-COVID, we weren't seeing our traditional candidate. We were seeing a lot more people who are looking to change careers, enter the field, or look to slow down type of a candidate versus somebody who was new in the field. We don't know where they went post-COVID, but they're coming back, and we're really excited that at least at Brandywine Conservancy, we've had a lot of long-term staff retirements. So while it's not traditional in today's market to have 35-year careers, we have that opening now where at least somebody can say, that's an option I didn't know existed for me. So we're excited about what the future looks like for us with a newer, younger, dynamic staff.
We're still getting grants, we're still getting funding for our research. We might have to word things slightly differently or be a little bit agile in the way that we submit grants and be creative. Engineering and civil environmental engineering still has that kind of taste of necessity to develop and build, and it's infrastructure. Even green stormwater infrastructure is infrastructure. So I think there's still those venues to go through when it comes to our work.
Yeah, I'll add, as far as, touching on funding as well, I mean, the nice thing is that in Pennsylvania, doing land conservation, it's not really, there's a federal component to it because they fund a lot of our state level programs that get dispersed for land acquisition, but, we are fortunate that there is such a long history of conservation in this state that we're quite resilient to the federal kind of cycle that's going on right now. Not only that, but I would just say, it feels like a year or 2 years ago at this point, but months ago, there was talk about selling off public land out west, and that was extremely bipartisan response to nix that idea. So I don't think that at least what I do, and I'm not organization wide, I'm land protection side of things and with natural lands, and at least what I have to focus on, not remotely worried. There could be small hiccups and things, but it does not feel like it's a big problem. There's nothing like scarcity to make people crave something, and as there's urban sprawl and everything else, there's gonna be trends of us wanting conservation.
And I just want to add, I think we're seeing a decline in donations to our nonprofits, and especially right now, there's a big competition in it. But just so you all know this, nonprofits are really trying to work on proper pay, equal pay. And I think that's, if I was a young person today, it's like, how do I get that job, make enough money? And when you work in the nonprofit space, that can be really risky, right? That feels, it's never, unfortunately, nonprofits are never going to be able to pay at the top as a commercial market. But I think we're seeing still a lot of people enjoy the values of this kind of work. They enjoy, I see young people all the time coming at Jenkins. I always tease, by the time they can drive, they're coming there for dates, or they're coming there with their friends, right? And I really am glad to see that. We are free of admission, so no economic barrier there as well, which is really helpful, but as well as all of our institutions, our open lands. But I think that's, I think trying to make fair jobs that can be livable are really something we're trying to work on as well. And I think that's going to be really important as we look forward in the conservation environment and the horticultural environment, how those two professions, as they're especially merging together, are able to support.
Am I still on? I am. Okay, great. Unless anybody else has a burning question, I just want to. There is. Yes. Hold on. Actually, the microphone is swinging your way. It's arriving. Okay.
Okay. Hello. So my question is, yes, green spaces are super important. We connect with them in various ways. So I was wondering, as populations and places are getting more denser, if you guys work with like cities to try to incorporate more greenery in spaces then, so we can connect.
Yeah, there was this interesting study actually that I saw about COVID and people's reaction to it, and like having a green space nearby made you happier. But I think actually there's a website that I saw that it was being worked on. It was presented at the symposium about being able to walk to a park. Like that was like the goal of the website. Yeah, you know, okay. But yeah, so with the state manual, we are trying to incentivize anything vegetated because there's a resiliency to that, right? And give more credit to these systems that have been kind of unfairly decredited because there's just more, void space there's more physical storage if you put it underground, right? So we've been trying to give it proper credit. So my entire dissertation was on ET and how we can credit that as an engineering loss mechanism. And we have that tool available to us, as well as different types of modeling systems to look at not just like one snapshot in time, but long term, what this thing will look like. So there's those ways to incentivize from accrediting perspective on building more above ground systems that might be green. Maybe not a park, but it could be a stormwater system. And I guess that's kind of all I have on that. And people like them, but yeah, depends on the stakeholder.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tempting to think that we're really focusing on where are those large tracts of land that we want to make the next big preserve. But I've been really happy. You know, I only joined Natural Lands in April, so I'm way new. But it's been really wonderful to have kind of the sign off or even encouragement to think really deeply about what the opportunities are in Philadelphia as well. And we're not, you know, we think of ourselves as additive. You know, we're not. There are organizations. There are plenty of nonprofits, and I mean, I share it with Neighborhood Gardens Trust that's buying these little tiny brownfields and abandoned parcels and turning them into community gardens. It's a really wonderful thing. There's lots of people doing great work, and so we're looking for opportunities to be additive to that. We don't need to replace anybody or anything like that, but there are opportunities, whether that's trails, there's old hospitals and schools and things that we can put conservation easements on. There's riparian corridors like along Darby Creek and Tacony Park. Like there's lots of places to do really great work in those places, and I think that's a place that we can really spend a lot more time focusing.
And I think another place that nonprofits are poised to participate in conversations on greening urban and suburban spaces is like helping concerned residents and citizens like yourselves interact with your municipal leaders. Like right now, Radnor is having the Vision for Radnor conversations about downtown Wayne. Part of what makes downtown Wayne amazing are all of the trees that you can walk under during the summertime, and quantifying that to our leaders and talking about how when we're talking about our 10-year plan, how important our parks and trail spaces are. And so nonprofits have the opportunity to say, hey, remember, you have this survey open to you. You have this opportunity to talk to your leaders. Make sure your voices are heard so that they know that this is a value to you as well. And then it's not just us that are talking to them, it's you showing your support for it too, and empowering leaders who are in decision-making spaces who have to decide how to allocate budget money to feel empowered that this is a value to the community, and our people want this, and we all want this, so we can feel good about investing this money in this too. And on that note, I think can I just say, you guys are amazing. It feels like it's 11 o'clock with the time change. It's so dark outside, but so you are wonderful audience. Thank you so much for coming. Environmental education and community engagement are foundational parts of the mission at Radnor Conservancy, and having all of you in the room, looking across this room, the students, the professionals, the municipal leaders, the community leaders, having you in this room means the world to all of us. So thank you for spending your Monday with us. Thank you for coming out. Please, there's an amazing spread in the back waiting for you. Please don't leave it. Grab a snack. If you're feeling it, there's caffeine available too. And thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you. And thank you to these wonderful panel. Thank you.